Welcome to the MTR Network. You have the doctor here with Timothy Lewinson, the writer and producer of Savage Empire, a new graphic novel that is on the Amazon store. Timothy is the writer. He's also the colorist for it. The pencil and inks were done by Jimmy Roy Jimenez, and the lettering was done by Bernardo Bryce. And I read the book, but I have the author here, so I'm going to have him tell us a little bit about the book and then talk about it, because I read it and it's really good, the first issue, but it also left me a lot of questions. So here's where I started, okay? Here's what I know for sure, and you fill in the blanks for me. The San Andreas Fault has split open. There's 3 million people dead, and out of nowhere, these velociraptors just start jumping out and eating people. I'm like, oh my God, there's dinosaurs! And then there's these EMPs causing these time rifts that it sounds like the dinosaurs are pushing through, but it sounds like they were trying to do something else. And then you have this hero who I'm still trying to figure out if he's our hero or he's our anti-hero, Reeves Rittenauer, who is, it's just so much going on in this book. So why don't you tell us about the book? What inspired you? Because when I read it, I saw a mix of urban warfare meets Jurassic Park meets time travel, Star Trek. It was all over the place, but it was really, really good. So.
Good. Well, I'm glad that it actually turned out into a cohesive mix, and it wasn't too confusing. I'll start off by saying that I'm really glad that when you were talking about Reeves, that you weren't sure if he was the hero or the anti-hero, protagonist or antagonist. It was really important putting these characters together that they feel fully fleshed out, and nobody's an angel or devil all the time, unless you're Donald Trump. So, frankly, it was really important to make sure these characters felt like real people, even though they're in a graphic novel. But as far as the overall premise, you hit on the key points. We have, the San Andreas Fault finally, the big one finally hits California to the point where it rips a good chunk of the Southern California mainland free from the coast, and now you have pretty much the island of Los Angeles sitting out there by itself. All these people are dead, and these portals, these rifts opening up, and dinosaurs pouring through and eating everybody. That's that was a premise that really really appealed to me, and it felt like there were a lot of stories that I could tell from there. How did this thing happen? Who is involved? Who are the people that are left behind? How does the government deal with this kind of tragedy occurring? Right here, right in the United States. And so by setting it up this way, and everybody loves dinos. Everybody likes action and science fiction. I really felt like Savage Empire was a story that needed to be told right now.
Cool. So tell me a little bit about yourself and your history. Is this, and I'm going to apologize, is this one of your first big projects, or is this a follow-up project that you're doing?
So this is the first graphic novel that I've ever done.
Okay.
And I've worked on several massive projects in my day job. I work in video games. I've been in video games for a little over 20 years now. First started at Electronic Arts. I was senior designer at Disney for several years, working on Turok, which slid right into my love of dinosaurs. Worked at Relic and a Company of Heroes, several high-rated RTS titles, and right now I'm working on Star Wars, the new Star Wars with Amy Hennig, who you may know from the Uncharted series.
Yes.
So working on high-level, big budget IPs is something that I've done for years and years and years, but this is my baby. There's nobody else to answer to except for myself. Sink or swim, succeed or fail, everything was on me. And that was a challenge that I really wanted to take on. And so when planning out this particular project, I sat down and I'm like, well, can I draw? No, I can't. I can't draw. But I can write like nobody's business, if I say so myself. I've done a lot of it for different companies, and I felt like this was something that was really a good strength of mine. So wrote the initial pass and showed it to some people. They had some suggestions, took some to heart, some I didn't. And when I was at a point where I felt like we could really build something here, put together an art team and worked out everything on the production side on my own. And it was, it was one of those situations where I look back now and I'm like, if I'd known then what I know now, would I have still done it? Just the amount of work that was involved, doing this and producing this on my own. I'd still like to say yes. Years later, but man, it was quite the education.
So you mentioned years. How many years have you put into this so far?
So I didn't actually start the Kickstarter for this until just a little over 2 years ago, but I've been writing it for 3 years previous to that. So I've had this, it took pretty much 5 years from cradle to grave to get it from, the initial idea in my head to actually having finished copies in my backers' hands over the course of the last month and a half. So it's been, half a decade.
Can you tell me a little bit about that process? Just the process, because not even the Kickstarter piece, but you mentioned 3 years, and one knows. Well, maybe one doesn't know. One can imagine that writing a novel, writing a short story looks very different from writing a graphic novel. So what did that process look like for you? And did you follow a traditional process, or did you I know you drew on some of your experience, your full-time experience, but what other pieces came into play as you developed a comic? I have no idea what goes into that. I'll be very honest. I just know I love what comes out on the other end.
Yeah. See, nobody wants to know how the sausage is made.
I'm kind of curious. Not that it's anything that I would do because I'm not that creative, but I'm just curious as to what that looks like.
Well, you're absolutely correct. When you're writing traditional novels versus a graphic novel, I would almost say that writing a graphic novel is closer to writing a screenplay.
Okay.
You're really concerned about the visuals, not to the visuals that would be presented in your head when you're just reading a novel and seeing what the author is telling you, and then creating that vision in your mind. With the graphic novel, that graphic being the key part of the phrase, there's an expectation that you are telling a story visually that can match up with what it is that you are, with the letters that you're putting down on the page. So I had to go back to school in that regard and move away from, traditional novel writing techniques and do a lot of research on screenplays, on screenwriting, writing for the screen, writing in a way that when I was working with my art team, who were not located, in Vancouver, but around the globe, that they could look at that and then translate that onto the page in a way that made sense, that was cohesive, that told a story that could match up with the words that were on the page and didn't jar. It was also really important to me that anybody that I brought aboard on the graphic side would be able to not just ape what it is that I'm saying, but to bring their own touch to it. And I was actually quite fortunate in that the guys that I'm working with, Jim Jimenez and Bernardo, they were actually able to take a look at the script and say, you know what, this would actually be pretty cool if we set up the panels, this way, or if we had a character who's pointing over here now leads the eye to something else that's going on, which still ties in to the story that you're trying to tell and the words that are being placed in the page, and creating that kind of really cohesive team effort. It's one of those things that it's not going to happen if you don't have a strong script and one that can be visually appealing. So for me, moving away from traditional, short story writing and really focusing and doing more research on writing screenplays, that was the big help for me, and that probably saved me a lot of time.
Okay. So let's jump into the story. So like I said, it starts off very action packed, and it's like, whoa, where is this going? Like the prologue's very action packed. We get introduced to Reeves, and there's a very, in my mind, for me, a multicultural cast, and that's rare to see amongst comics, although we're seeing it more and more, and especially from independent artists, which I just love. But tell me a little bit about your hero, I don't even want to call him a hero, about your main protagonist. I can call him that because I still haven't figured out. I haven't figured out if he's the hero yet. He's got some anti-hero Punisher-like tendencies a little bit.
He's a little shady. You know? You're looking at him, you're like, yeah, I can see you drinking the last bit of orange juice out the box and not telling anybody. Yeah,
and yet at the same time, given what happens to him and what's done to him, I can see why he's a little pissy. I'd be mad.
Touching on, Reeves as a central protagonist, he's a tough guy. Mm-hmm. He's got a background that has lent itself to somebody who doesn't really take a lot of nonsense. And you can see that in his interactions with the other people, in his squad and the people around him when he's behind the lines, going through and dealing with the dinosaur threat while trying to get to the bottom of the initial mystery, and then finding out what's going on, and then really having to start to dig. He's not a person who suffers fools gladly, and that some of that, that's reflected, in my own personality, and it's fair that creatives tend to put a little piece of themselves into their work. Mm-hmm. But I do appreciate Reeves, presenting himself to me as I was writing as somebody who can be multifaceted, who is competent, very competent at what he does, brought in specifically because of his abilities, but at the same time, he's not heartless. There are opportunities for him to present that side of himself in the comic where, he can, reach out and he can help people while still maintaining his focus and still being, in terms of his overall personality, being true to his personality. And, that wasn't easy to do. He took several rewrites to get to the point where I felt comfortable with him as a person in this incredibly crazy science fiction background, but still being a touchstone that you could reach out and go, yeah, this guy feels solid. He feels real. And as far as the people that are around him, multicultural, I mean, that was deliberate on my part, mm-hmm. because that's my life. That's everybody's life for the most part. I mean, unless you're living in, some of these spaces where, it's pretty homogenous, but for the most part, if you're in an urban area, you see people of different races and creeds and religions around you all the time, to the point where it's just what you know. Here in Vancouver, we have, a large Caribbean population, large Asian population, South Asian, Chinese, Filipino, Caucasian, Russian, Irish, German, but we're all just people, and that's just how it is. And it would be really odd to present a story that didn't reflect real life. And of course, I'm saying that in a story that has time traveling dinosaurs coming around in Los Angeles
and Long Beach, that is now Long Island, according to that map. Long Beach has become Long Island in this world, or Long Island on the West Coast. With regards to Reeves, it's funny because you mentioned that soft side of him, like when he helps rescue the kids, and then even goes as far as picking them up ice cream. I'm like, do we have time for ice cream? But given everything that's going on around us. But then in a conversation a little later on with one of his team members, he makes it seem like if I could have left them there, I would have. And I'm like, but would you have? You got these kids ice cream. That doesn't sound like the kind of guy that would have left children behind.
I think when you look at what he's telling, his teammate at that time, it's not. Sometimes the room is bigger than the room. Yeah, this is something that my dad always told me. Growing up, old school Jamaicans, they got tons of proverbs. They got proverbs for every day of the week, twice on Sundays. And the room is bigger than the room. And sometimes you're not just talking to his characters, but you're also talking to the people that are reading this and saying, as a character, I realize that sometimes there are things that are bigger than myself, things that are bigger than what I might want to do. But for me to succeed, I need to communicate to you that I am that guy who will actually go to the next level if need be. And I may not feel great about it, but you'll just have to understand. And Reeves is that kind of character. And when I think that by being true to himself in that regard, it's something that, really helps cement the kind of person that he is to anybody who's reading this, not just the members of his squad.
Yeah. Speaking of his squad, I started off being ambivalent about him, but then why was it so easy for them to turn on him?
Everybody's got their own reasons, right?
Yeah.
For doing what they do. And I think if you take a look at where they're coming from and who they're working for, because you got to understand, he's coming in as an outsider to this group.
This is
he's
true.
He's a consultant.
Yeah.
When hold on a second, we got an earthquake, and okay, Los Angeles is falling to the sea. Oh, we got dinosaurs killing people. All right, everything's on fire. Who do we call? And you go through the Rolodex, and he's the man. And so they're almost acting like, I don't want to say chaperones, but, they're keeping an eye on him because they're a little more straight-laced. They work for the government. He works for a branch which they are not familiar with, and there's an innate distrust there. And when, you have these they say iron sharpens iron, but these guys, they're just clashing. And I think when it's presented to them that the situation that he's in could be beneficial for their particular taskmasters. Some of them are saying, yeah, sure. Fuck them. Can I say that?
Yeah. Yes, we put explicit on our podcast, and Lord knows I can curse. You go right ahead.
Okay. So some members of the squad are just saying, yeah, we have no allegiances to this guy. Fuck him.
Yeah.
We'll use him and we'll do what we have to do. But one thing that you will see in the story is that not all of them are on the same line, and that starts to fracture the relationship between the people inside that squad in terms of how they're dealing with them. And I really think that was a big opportunity for the story to really grow organically, where it's like, no, we're not a monolith. We don't all feel the same way, and we have a trust here. But the way that you're acting right now, I'm looking at you kind of side-eyed. And so that allowed, for some room for more of the storyline to grow and to blossom. And I'm hoping that anybody who reads Savage Empire and sees how these characters are interacting with each other and how these changes are forcing them to reassess how they look at each other, that they're really going to enjoy the book in that regard.
So I'm not going to spoil the whole thing because we're talking about
Please
it.
don't. I want people to buy it.
No. But what I will say is that there's a catastrophic event that fundamentally changes who Reeves is. And that takes up a good chunk of the story. My question is, where do we go from here? Because at the end of this first issue, a lot of stuff has come to light. It comes out that these EMPs causing these rifts and these dinosaurs, there was something else that they were angling for that's not revealed in issue 1. And I don't want you to tell me because, like I said, I want to buy the next one. But, he's changed. The mission seems to have changed. The focus, even of the people who were initially responsible for this event, changes. Where do we go from here? Where are we going to stay in this LA area? Will we get back mainland? Will we see how this has an effect on the rest of the country? What does the world building look like from here on?
I think when you look at the earthquake as that central theme, then the sand's constantly shifting under everyone's feet. That goes for everybody in the book. So, like you said, there's a character arc and there's a transformation from who Reeves was at the beginning to where he is at the end. He is still the same person who is looking for answers. Mm-hmm. But at the beginning of the book, he was looking for answers for a pay packet.
Right.
Now, at the end, he's looking for answers, but they're for himself. Yeah. And I have a feeling, again, not giving anything away, but I have a feeling that Reeves Ridenour is a much harsher boss than anybody who could hire him because he's doing this. This is doing this for him.
Right.
And God help anybody who gets in his way. And I think he made that very clear as you go through the latter third of the book.
Oh, yes.
To exactly what extent.
He was not here to play with anybody.
I'm not playing with you fools.
Not at all.
That's basically that's the kind of person that he is. But at the same time, we are not taking the squad members that he was working with before and relegating them to the background. Mm-hmm. Now they have their own motivations. Now, certain things have come to light where people have found out that, what they thought was one thing, wasn't, like Marlowe in The Wire, you want it to be this way, but it's not, it's another way. And, they found out now that and now there are some really big fractures for us to deal with in that regard. There are people who are hurt, both physically and mentally, and they're going to have to deal with that going forward. And I think as Reeves starts looking for answers, we're going to really blow this open and take it much, much higher, all the way up the food chain in terms of the government, who now have this rogue agent, this non-state actor running around on the loose with some, pretty incredible skills under his belt, and they don't have any control over. Like that, it's really exciting to me to see where I want to take this. It's really just a matter of time. I mean, like I said, it took me a while to get to this point. Savage Empire is, it's 78 pages. So it's not your typical, monthly, where 20 pages long. I've learned a lot over the production side of things, so I can obviously, I can crank these out a lot faster now. I'm really just taking a break, focusing on Star Wars for a bit, and working out exactly where Reeves is going to go next.
Okay. Now, what's interesting is that you started this under an Obama administration, which means the actions of government agencies looked very different. Will you continue that thread with the way those government agencies act, or will you make the shift to connect it to modern day political reality?
I think there are some aspects in there right now that do touch on the current political reality. In fact, one character towards the end specifically calls out the current administration, current U.S. administration, and makes his feelings quite clear in terms of, this is who you report to. Well, here's what I think of them, even though they're paying us. And while one of the advantages of working on this for this amount of time is, I did start it under the Obama administration and finished it with Trump in office, but there are some elements of government, especially the shadier parts, the black ops part, that stuff doesn't change.
Yeah, that's true.
And certainly not comparing the two administrations at all in terms of, who these men are. But bureaucracy is bureaucracy. And, and the military is the military. And a lot of that stuff doesn't change, whether it's, covert ops in nations other than, the United States and Canada, how, we treat people around the globe, messing around with other governments. I mean, these are things that's just what happens. It's just what the U.S. does. And, not just the USA, other countries do it too. But, when you're swinging it in the room, you're the biggest one. That's just who you get. That's just who you look at. So, I can't help but let, certain aspects of, political realities seep into my book, seep into any creative work that I do. And for me to be true to myself, I mean, I have to do that. I really do. Not over the head, not beating people over the head with it, because that, I'm not preaching. And I think that kind of stuff gets boring. But I also would not be true if I didn't, touch on it here and there, because it's reality. It's what everybody's dealing with, and that's what we're really dealing with right now. So we'll see how much that affects the next story.
Cool. So I know you said you did the Kickstarter, and I asked you about the vision for the story, but what do you envision for the series? Does it remain a series? Does it remain like a graphic novel series? Do you branch out into other mediums? What's your vision for it?
So ideally, when I first came up with the idea, I wanted to make a game out of it, right?
Okay.
I mean,
I can see this as a game. And I'm the kind of person who I like really detailed games with stories. So I've never been a Call of Duty or a Halo person. That's my kids thing. But for me, I love the story and the lore from Dragon Age and how that builds. And from the Mass Effect series, and I don't care what nobody says, Andromeda was a good game. But anyway, but how those stories build on themselves, and so, you're doing all this action, but you're also being told it's like I don't know if you are old enough to even remember this. There was this book series when I was growing up called Choose Your Own Adventure.
Oh, I'm very familiar with Choose Your Own Adventure.
Okay, so and that's kind of those are the kinds of games I love, and so I can see that with this even being like, okay, so
that's good.
This decision tree means this is going to happen, or this is going to happen.
Yeah, let's go down the rabbit hole and see what happens. my initial take on this, I wanted to make a game out of it. Games, that's my thing. That's what I know.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are a lot of those elements in there, which I'm glad you picked up on them, which are game like and would lend themselves well to interactive entertainment. One of the people that I talked to originally when I was first working on this, one of my rabbis, in my career rabbis, he was like, "Look, you want to make this." But nobody's going to hand you $50 million, no matter what your resume is, and say, yeah, go and make this brand new IP and see what happens, unless it's a mobile game. And even then, they're going to want to take everything.
Yeah.
You need to get the IP out there. You need to get it, make it known, make it a thing, make it a known quantity, and then build on that. So figure out the cheapest way to get it up and then do that. And I'm like, well, I can write, but I don't want to do a novel. I don't know if this lends itself to a novel. There's the kind of action that I'm trying to present in here. It's really visual, which is, again, coming from that games development background. So I started doing some research into exactly how much it costs to make a comic. And originally it was only going to be like a monthly thing, 18 to 20 pages and go from there. But looking at the script that I had written and wanted to do justice to it, it ballooned. So I got all the way up to 120 pages before I whittled it down to lean and mean, 78, and got it out there. And the response for Savage Empire so far has been overwhelming. I'm really, really happy at it. Now I have something that I can take and do whatever with it because it's a known quantity now. So that's cool. That's
wonderful.
Yeah, thanks.
Are there other things you want us to know that you want to highlight that maybe we haven't touched on?
I really want people to understand that, the presentation of these characters, it's not your typical good guy, bad guy, the characterizations that you get in comics. I wanted to flesh these people out. I wanted to make sure that you have people of, like I said, different multicultural backgrounds that are in there because that's reality. I have strong female characters and strong male characters. I have weak female characters and weak male characters because that's life. We know people. I want people to read my books and go, oh yeah, I know somebody like this, or I see elements of myself in this person, or, oh, I recognize this person. I don't necessarily like them in real life and I don't like them here either, but that's cool. As long as there's something that people can reach out to and see something that they can relate to in my books. I mean, that's the best. I mean, even if I never wrote another book after this, but enough people loved Savage Empire and were saying the things that they're saying already, which is, hey, this is really cool. I like these people. I can understand where they're coming from. Their motivations make sense.
Yes.
That's the big thing for me and for any project that I work on. And I'm just really ecstatic that, Savage Empire has turned out the way that it did, and that I've had a chance to really get to know people, in this industry, in the comics industry, over the course of the last 3 to 4 years, putting this in together. There's been a lot of support for a guy who honestly came into this. I didn't know shit about shit, and a lot of folks helped me. I gotta pay a huge homage to my letterer, Bernardo Bryce, who he saved me thousands of dollars. I was heading down the lane, heading down a dark alley with my wallet out, whistling a happy tune.
I take all my money.
Yeah, just like $100 bills hanging out of my pocket. And hey, how's it going? And he swooped in like Batman, and he put me on the right path in a lot of different regards because he's done it before. And it's just great the kind of support that people have showed. Somebody that they didn't have to. Yeah. That's a large part of the reason why I'm actually really grateful to be talking to you and on the MTR network. Reaching out, and you guys don't know me from the hole of the ground, but you're giving me a chance to talk about a passion project and this book that's really important to me. And, I want to say thank you for that too.
Oh, no, absolutely. I get great joy out of talking to people who are putting out new ventures and like So as much as we can signal boost new talent, especially people that are bringing us like really multicultural, really multifaceted pieces, I am all about that, especially because what you just said about your characters, even your government characters are not those one-dimensional mustache twirling bad guys.
Yeah.
No one, as much as I was talking about the hero anti-hero thing, I don't get a sense, with the exception of the folks being ratchet on the island because people are opportunists, that's just life. But the larger players, I don't get a sense that anyone went into it as like, let me see how ain't shit I can be and be that level of ain't shit. It's all coming from a place of what they feel is a good cause. But, you know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And that's what we're finding with these characters.
Nobody is a villain in their life story.
No.
Because their motivations always make sense from their perspective. Even if they can't explain it, you know, it's just the way that it should be. Yeah, but this and this and this and this, you know, it doesn't hold up. Well, it doesn't matter. That's just the way it should be, and I'm doing this because I feel that it's right. And when you have people who, like you said, they're not trying to be ain't shit for the sake of being ain't shit, but they have their own motivations and their own perspectives. You know, that's just people, man. People are going to clash. You get more than two folks in a room, and politics hop in the equation. And you know, I really think that for characters that are going to resonate and that are going to stick with people, they have to reflect and have relationships that reflect real life. And whether it is a crazy science fiction dinosaur backdrop, or you're telling, you know, a period drama that is focused, you know, strictly on relationships and, you know, or family drama. Like it doesn't matter what the backdrop is. What matters is the people that are in there feel real. And, like you said, twirling mustache baddies,
those are the worst.
You know, like I said, I mean, we got one, we got one in the White House, but other than that, you know, there's everybody has their own motivations, and nobody thinks they're the bad guy. So it's really up to me to present these different facets and then let you figure out who you think the real heroes are. You know, like it's funny because not everybody has picked out Reeves, even though he's like the main protagonist, as like the good guy.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Like I said, I haven't pegged him either way. I don't know that he's either yet. He may never be either. He may just be a person working his way through the circumstances that this whole situation has put them in. That might be the case for all of these characters. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, you have this non-state actor running around doing stuff who is, you know, a strong personality, a strong element, but he can be one of many strong elements. And to me, that makes for a more exciting universe and a story for me to explore, as opposed to, well, we've got, you know, Captain Do-Gooder and his merry band of sidekicks going up against, you know, the evil What's-It, and just clashing over the course of several issues over bullshit. Like, I'm sorry, that doesn't interest me. You know, I'm of a certain age now, and there are stories that I want to read, and stories that I want to read. You know, I want characters that have a little more oomph, you know, and I think that what I presented with Savage Empire and these characters will give people, you know, the resonance that they're looking for, along with lots of action and lots of blood and dinosaurs doing crazy shit in LA. Dinosaurs, velociraptors. The fact that the first ones I saw were velociraptors, I was just like, yes. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. So I gotta ask you a question though, while I got you on. So are you feathers or no feathers?
Feathers.
Okay.
No. I was thinking. That wasn't my answer.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Didn't mean to rush you. But I am curious because I did a poll when I was doing the Kickstarter on Twitter, and pretty much split down the middle. So I'm curious as to what you think.
Here's the deal. Science tells us that our modern day birds are evolutionary descendants of dinosaurs. So I want to say feathers, but I feel like alligators might also be the modern day dinosaur. They have scales. I'm torn. I might have to sit in the middle of the road and just get run down. I know that's the worst place to be, but
It is a worth place to be. You got to commit.
No, I don't. No, the hell I don't. I'm kidding. Not today, I don't.
Well, we've got some badass concept art, with feathers as well, as well as non-feathered. But and if you take a close look at the book, we've got some feathered dinos in there as well, just to support both sides, Fox News style. You know how it is.
And we've got some herbivores who are just as dangerous as the carnivores. So.
Yeah.
When you're reading, keep an eye out. They're not all friendly, sweet brontosauruses that sneeze on children a la Jurassic Park is all I'm saying.
Exactly. These are wild animals and they will fuck you up in a minute. It's funny. One of the guys that I worked with, in fact, the guy who did the cover for Savage Empire is an artist named Daryl Mandrick. So Daryl's a god. Okay. He is phenomenal. He's worked on, he was the major high concept artist for SSX, which was a snowboarding game done at Electronic Arts Canada. Also did all of the concept art for the Def Jam Vendetta and Def Jam Fight for New York series. Did a lot of work with him at Propaganda, on Turok, Pirates of the Caribbean. And now he's gone solo because everybody wants to work with him, and he's also a good buddy of mine, and I don't know how I managed to convince him to do the cover. But regardless, when we sat down and we were talking about how we wanted to present the cover for Savage Empire, he's like, the story that we're telling here, like, it's one guy, but it's one of many. And I'm like, yeah, but he's still the main guy. He's like, okay, so we're gonna have him. He's like, I'm thinking about teeth, and I'm thinking about blood. I'm like, okay, so I'm just going to step away now, and you come back to me. You come back to me in a month with the main protagonist, teeth, and blood, and it's cool, the collaboration and the level of trust that we already had built over the years, working together at EA and at Disney. But he. I mean, what do you think about the cover? I think he nailed it.
I'm looking at it now, and I'm slow. Until you said teeth, I knew I saw the main protagonist standing here with a bloody knife in one hand, a gun in another, with his foot on the neck of a dead dinosaur in front of something. And it wasn't until you said teeth. It's kind of like that Duck Bunny thing that, that video.
Yeah.
Until you told me those were teeth, and now I'm looking at them like, God damn, those are teeth. That is a big ass. He is standing in front of a big ass dinosaur ready to eat him.
Layers. And that's awesome, because everybody that I've talked to has said the same thing.
Oh my God.
It's like,
I don't feel so slow.
I thought he was like going into a cave.
Oh God, thank God. I don't feel so slow.
Those teeth?
Yes, and there's blood dripping off of him, and he's about to open his mouth. Oh my God. I'm glad that you said that, because I was feeling a little dumb. And so since you said a lot of people said that, I don't feel so dumb.
No, don't even worry about it. And almost everybody I talked to has been like, oh,
yeah.
Like it's that second layer. Peel back the onion, and there's a second layer staring you right in the face that you didn't see. So,
and you can see his nostril up there. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's all there. It's funny. It's people have reacted to it. They're like, wow, that's a striking cover. Like, even when I went to my printer and they came back and went to go pick up the proofs, and the lady, the manager there, she's like, you know what? We get a lot of books in here. we would actually buy this one. I'm like, oh, I bet you say that to everybody. He's like, trust me, we don't.
Take your compliments. No, I mean, good Lord. I mean, like I said, it was striking enough just seeing him standing defiantly on top of this dinosaur, but to recognize that he's standing facing another even bigger one. It's like, y'all need to. It was worth
and not backing down.
No,
again,
he's ready to roll.
Like, he's like, let's do this.
Yeah,
if we have to.
I got this knife and his gun in his hands. Let's go.
Yeah. I'll pay the price if I have to, but one of us is walking out of here.
And I plan on it being me.
Yeah. And that's just the kind of guy he is, One of us is walking out of here, and it's going to be me.
Yeah.
Today is not the day.
Today's the day the Lord made, but not the day to try it.
Yeah, that's the day to try it. Yeah. Shout out to What's the Tea.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much for taking this time.
Oh, thank you.
It was fun. Can you tell them where they can find you on the social medias? And we're going to put that in the show notes as well.
Yeah. So hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter name is Vancouver Tim, all one word, VANCOUVERTIM, for all your, comic related, games related, anti-Trump, related, sports related stuff. Yeah, I tweet on the regular, and if you don't like that kind of stuff, don't follow. But if you do and you want to laugh, give me a follow up on Twitter. I can also be found on Instagram at Likes to Fight, LIKESTOFIGHT. I put up a lot of the background production stuff from the creation of Savage Empire is up there right now, and if you're interested in how the comic came together, you're looking at some of the cool concept art, which is going to be coming out in an art book later on this year. Check me out on Instagram as well. And I really encourage you to go to savageempire.org, which will redirect you to the Amazon link for the book. And I hope you guys give it a shot and try it. And please let me know up on Twitter. Reach out and let me know if you like the book or not. And if you do like it, leave a 5-star review because that really helps. And I'm dealing with a couple of troll reviews on there right now. So every little bit you can do makes a difference.
I hate that. That is the worst. It's like you have nothing. And it's probably somebody that didn't even read it. Anyway, I am someone who is very selective about the comics that I read, and I will be following this series. So just know that about me. I read awesome. Like a handful of titles, and that's because I prefer to read books. And then here lately, I've been mostly reading stuff related to my 40-hour-a-week job. So I haven't had a chance to read much of anything. But I was able to sit down and read this. I read half of it while I was sitting with my kid at the doctor waiting for his finger to be x-rayed. And then I finished the other half at another appointment. It was just really, really good. And it's a good read. It's a dense read, but it's also a quick read, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I want to say that, I punch you in the gut, but then I help you up right away.
Yes. Yeah. And it will keep you guessing like, okay.
That's my writing style.
And you think, just when you think you have it figured out, a new element is introduced like, oh, wait, I don't know what's going on. And then again, you think, okay, now I know what's going on. And then something else gets introduced like, wait, still don't know what's going on. I got to keep going. And I feel like those are the best reads for me. Those are the best reads. So,
well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you bringing me on, and I'm glad that you read the book and that you liked it. That means a lot to me. It really, really does.
Absolutely. And so we'll be putting this out, and thank you all for listening. And until next time, take care.
Peace.